Hello everyone, I'm Sara Sach and welcome to my crochet channel. Today is part 2 of our wildflower granny square bag. In part 1 I showed you how to make your wildflower granny squares, which are 6-inch granny squares. You can find that link for that video down in the notes under the video. Today we're going to take these 8 squares and make them into an adorable granny bag. Oh, and don't forget, the entire pattern with pictures is on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make these 8 squares into a granny bag, you're going to need a main color to use as the color that we join our squares together, make the top, and make the handle. You're also going to need a nice big button. This is a 1.5-inch button, and it's a flower, and I thought that was perfect for this particular bag. But we're going to be making a loop, and then that loop will go over the flower to close the top of our granny bag. We're going to be stitching with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. And like I said in part 1, go get in your yarn stash and see what colors you can do to mix and match and make a beautiful wildflower granny bag. So the first thing we need to do is we need to join our squares together. And the way we're going to do this is you're going to start with 2 squares, put them together with the right sides facing each other and the wrong sides out. We're going to join our yarn to the first chain 2 space in the corner, bring in our yarn that we're using, and all we're going to do is stitch slip stitches to join them together. We're going to be stitching in the outside or back loop on this side and the front loop on this side. Alright, so we're going to go in that first front loop on this side and back loop on this side. There we go. And stitch a slip stitch. And that's the way we'll be joining all of our squares together. All right. We'll be stitching in the front loop on this side and the back loop on this side, which is the outside loops on both sides. And we're stitching slip stitches. You go in, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. And I want to show you the front, how it's going to look. Because remember, this is the back side, and we go to the front. And of course, that's where we join, so that'll be tightened up. And you'll have this row of stitches like this. Okay, and it'll look nice and neat. But don't worry about that one. We'll snug that up when we tie it off. All right, so we're just going to work across, working in the outside loops, stitching slip stitches. If you're uncomfortable doing slip stitches, you can always do single crochet stitches. There we go. It'll be a little bit bigger of a stitch, but it'll still work just fine. Another technique for joining squares is whip stitches. And you can just put yarn on a needle and stitch them together. There are literally hundreds of ways to join squares. And you can find one that you like if this one isn't working for you. All right? My thing is I want it to be as neat as possible. There we go. All right. So we're just going to work that across. And we're going to do this 3 more times on the other 2 sets of 2 squares. So I've stitched them all together. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 sets with 2 each. Now we need to put these 2 together with 2 more. All right, so we'll decide what colors we want to go where. All right, so I'm going to put these 2 together and these 2 together. So I'm going to move that one out of the way, and we'll do the same thing. We'll put the back sides out. We'll grab our yarn, Again, start in the corner and slip stitch them across the same way we did the other square joins. And we'll go straight across both squares, stitching in those outside stitches. And do what you did. If you did slip stitches, do slip stitches. If you did single crochets, do single crochets, or whatever method that you're using to put your squares together. All right, so I'm just going to stitch across this one the same way I did here, and then I'll do these as well. And then I'll have two that have 4 squares joined together. So now we have 2 sets of 4 granny squares, and we're going to make them into our bag. So we're going to take the granny squares and make sure the front is facing out. And you can decide what portion you want to be the top and the bottom. I kind of like them not to be the same, like this has got the light green here, so I'm going to change that a little. Let's see. I like that. Okay. Now, don't worry if it looks a little puckered in here. That'll stretch as we work, because now we're going to join it into a bag. We're going to join our yarn up here. We're going to stitch single crochets down. We'll put 3 in the corner, across, 3 in the corner, and then up. And then we'll come up and do the top of our bag, all right? So, we'll start over here on the left corner. Grab the color that we're using and bring that in. And I'll show you how we're going to sew it or stitch it together. We want a real good sturdy seam, so we're going to go through both the loops on this side and both the loops on this side and stitch single crochets. When we get to our chain 2 spaces, we'll just stitch 2 single crochets in those chain 2 spaces. When we're on our double crochets, we'll go through the loops on both sides and stitch our single crochets. And this will give us a nice sturdy edge on our bag. It won't be too big of an edge, but it will be nice and sturdy and look really pretty. And I'm just going to stitch all the way down to this corner down here, stitching a single crochet in our double crochets going through the front and the back. And then when we get to our chain 2 spaces, we'll stitch 2 double crochets in those chain 2 spaces. And it's going to be a little bit tricky when we go across the portion where we joined our squares. And in this corner we'll stitch one single crochet, and in this corner we'll stitch 1 single crochet. And that's going to help pull that out so we don't have a dent in there. We don't want a dent there, okay? And that's how we'll stitch that first side. Once we've stitched down the side, it brings us to our corner. And in this corner, we're going to stitch 3 single crochets. And that's going to help that move around that corner nice and smoothly. And then we'll just continue stitching the same way we did on the sides, stitching a single crochet in each of the double crochets and 2 single crochets in those chain 2 spaces. And then we'll repeat on this corner what we did over here. So now I've stitched down the side, 3 single crochets in the corner, stitched together across, 3 single crochets in the corner, and then stitched up this side. Now don't cut your yarn off here, because now we're going to go around the top and form the top portion of our bag. All right, so we'll just be stitching in the individual and not stitching them together. But we'll be doing the same thing. we're going to stitch single crochet in the double crochets, single crochets in the double crochets, 2 single crochets in the chain 2 space, and then 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets across. Just like we were doing around, only we're going to go down across and then come back across the back. I stitched around the top edge of my bag. I'm going to join to that first single crochet and chain 1. And now what we're going to do for 3 more rows is stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets around, join, and we're going to do that for 3 more rows. So we'll end up with 4 rows of single crochet at the top of our bag. So I stitched those rows of single crochet, so I have 4 rows of single crochet at the top of my bag. I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn, pull that loop to the back, and weave that in. And now is a good time, if you have anything left that isn't tidied up, to weave those ends in. All right, and so after I weave this in, we're going to make the handle and attach it. All right, we're going to make the handle for our bag, and you need to start with about a 10-inch tail of yarn. We're going to use that to sew that end of the handle onto the bag. All right, so now I have a slip knot, and we're going to chain 6. We're going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. So we'll have 5 single crochets, chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we'll go right in that first single crochet and stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 5. There we go. Chain 1 and turn. 1 single crochet in each of the 5 single crochets, chain 1 and turn. And we'll continue to repeat this until we have 50 rows of single crochet. Now, once you start stitching and you think that bag handle is not long enough, say you want a shoulder handle or a shoulder strap, you can continue to make your strap or handle as long as you want it. All right, but I'm going to be making mine for a total of 50 rows of single crochet, chain 1, turn 1 single crochet in the 5 for the length of my handle. I will be doing again a total of 50 rows. So I completed my strap. It's 50 rows long. I'm going to cut my yarn, and again I've got about a 10-inch tail there, and we're going to sew this on with our needle onto our bag. All right, so here's our bag, and this is how our handle will be. So we're going to come to one side and we're going to center that. Let me thread my needle real quick first. There we go. All right, we'll center the side of our bag. We're going to take our strap and put it right in the center, and we're going to whip stitch this on. And I like to go all the way over. Make sure we got a couple stitches in the end, and then work my way back across. There we go. Because we want that to be nice and secure. Make sure we get those corners good, and then we'll just weave that in. And so now I've got the one strap on, and it's nice and secure. And now I need to do the other side. And then the last thing we'll need to do is to make that button loop and add our button. All right, so let's sew our button on. And I think I want it to sit this way. And we're going to put it right here. And I'm going to go through some of these stitches because we want this to really be on there securely because it's what's going to hold our bag closed. All right, and so we're going to go through there. Make sure when you add a button, you always go through some of the stitches and not the holes because you want that to be on there securely. All right, I'm going to grip my hook here, pull that string to the back on the inside. We're just going to tie some knots to hold our button on. All righty. So now our button's on. Ended up twisting funny anyway, but it's still really cute. All right, so now we're going to make the button loop. To make the loop, all we're going to do is make our slip knot and chain 15 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Whoops, get in there. Chains. My scissors magnetized my needle. Alrighty, so now we're going to attach this to our bag. So our button's up here, and we want to put our loop back here. Alright, so we're going to attach this. We're going to make sure everything's centered. We're going to go in, and then we'll come over here a couple stitches down. Alright, I'm going to pull that up because I want to make sure I get that knot as close to the bottom of those chains as possible, because that's what's going to hold the loop on. Alrighty, I'm going to tie a second one just to make sure. Alrighty, we'll cut that. And the way this works is you pull the loop through and the loop goes around the button and keeps our bag closed and our goodies inside. So I have completed my wildflower granny bag. Nice sturdy handle. It's a nice size and it's perfect for a purse or just shopping. Now, if you would like to line this bag, I'll put that link that I have done on how to line a bag. I'll put that down in the notes under the video as well. So just look for where it says how to line a bag and click that link. It'll take you to the video where I show you how to line a bag. Because I think this bag would be great lined and used as my spring purse. But that's our wildflower granny square bag.